Welcome to the show. My name's Russell Pearson, and today we're talking about DeepSeek AI, and we're going to explain what that's all about. Welcome to the Consulting Talk podcast, and my name's Russell Pearson. I help all sorts of consultants and specialist service providers in running a successful business, and we talk about all things your questions. So if you've got questions that you'd like to ask about growing a consulting business, you can add them at consultingquestions.com, and the link is in the chat below. So I answer questions here, and the question we've got today is, what is DeepSeek AI and why should I care? Now, that question's been sent to us by Lindsay, which has been fantastic to receive that question, and it's really topical because DeepSeek is a new artificial intelligence that was launched a little over a week ago. Now, it was launched on the 20th of January, and there's something interesting about that because it was launched by a private Chinese company, and it was launched literally on the same day as Trump's inauguration. And it's also in league with the $500 billion announcement that was made by Trump about the private coalition of artificial intelligence. So they're putting a lot of money into this. Now, what's interesting about the Chinese artificial intelligence is it was actually created for less than $6 million, not $1 billion, $6 million, which makes it a crazy competitor. Now, that's interesting, but why should we care? Number one, is it any better than what we've already got in things like ChatGPT and OpenAI or Claude and all these other infrastructures that we're using as far as artificial intelligence for consultants? Well, it is better. It's better by the numbers. And so you won't be able to tell it's that much better through the use. Now, I'm actually going to do a full podcast on this next week. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel now, and it'll get notified when that new podcast comes available. And we're going to do a proper deep dive into it. But really, to give you the overview, is we've got a new artificial intelligence has come out. It's cost less than $6 million to make. It is now competing against things that they're spending like hundreds of billion dollars on to create. And it means that there's now this sort of war or race to the top of artificial intelligence. And again, back to why should I care as a consultant? Well, it means that this artificial intelligence race is accelerating. Now, the one thing, whether you like him or hate him, the one thing that Trump will do is accelerate a situation. And so by him putting the foot down, it's almost like he's saying, we're going to be the first to Mars, or we're going to be the first to the moon. It's like that old conversation. And then China has responded by coming out and sort of giving the finger to the US to say, well, here's an example that we can do as a much cheaper example. And we're now going to make it open source. So the US versions are privatized, capitalist system. You're not surprised there. But on the other side, they've gone open source, which means that anybody can now use that absolutely free. And so here's where the big acceleration comes, because for the man on the street or the consultant, it's not going to be that much of a change in the way that they work. So by the numbers, the new artificial intelligence is better, but they continue to leapfrog and get better and better as they go. And so if you're working with APIs and you're working with it as a computing engine, then yes, it will be a little bit better by the numbers. But in actual fact, how it works, it's not that much better. So you can actually go and download it now. You can get it on your phone. You can get a desktop version, absolutely free to sign up for. And it pretty much works like OpenAI in the communication that you'd have with it. A couple of small changes. What you can do is you can actually get to turn on its thinking. Like it will go through a process of how it thinks about something before it gives you an answer. And so it'll actually type out what it's thinking. It's all like what's going on inside its brain and let you know how it got to a conclusion. So, for instance, I asked it to do something and then it wouldn't do it because it was incapable of doing it. It was just a small thing like going to the internet to actually retrieve information, which is a big deal kind of, because you need a second party to enable it to go to the internet to retrieve things. OpenAI, at least the paid version, enables you to do that. So we're talking about free versus paid. All right, well, that's fair enough. So it says it can't do it. So I asked it 3 different times about how it could possibly do it. Then I turned on its thinking and I got it to ask it again. And it goes, I've noticed that Russell's asked me a 3rd time about something that I've already told him that I can't do. So clearly I'm not communicating this effectively. It could be for these reasons. And then it comes around and communicates it in a different way. So that was really interesting to see that. And you can absolutely go online and see all sorts of tests that people are putting it through its paces to see how it performs against other things like OpenAI's ChatGPT and things like Claude AI, right? So you can compare it. The big thing that happened from a business point of view is number one, this comes out. It's obviously they're thumbing their nose at the US. There's a clear distinction going on there. But the big one is Nvidia, who is backing a lot of the US work, dropped by 17% in one day. Their stock dropped by 17% in one day, and so that made news. And when that made news, that's when everyone started to notice that this DeepSeek AI was even like there. And then they started to put it through its paces, and now everybody's talking about it. Now, funnily enough, the news cycle when it comes to technology always blows up at the start of a calendar year. I don't know if you've noticed it yourself, but it definitely happens. And by the way, if you've got any specific questions, add them to the chat here and I can answer them on the call today. So there is always a big news cycle and there's always a bit of a beat up. There's always like all right, what's going on? Do we care? How's this going to play into our world? Now, as a consultant, and that's what really this show is all about, it's about helping consultants grow their business and helping them manage and adapt to the future that's coming along. The thing is, artificial intelligence is already within like the last 6 months, it's already leapfrogged from average to giving good advice. And what a lot of consultants did early days with OpenAI in particular is they put it through its paces and said, this is not even mediocre advice. This is not even at a point where I would get a junior or an intern to actually be giving advice or to actually do certain works. And so they dismissed it. But then it accelerated and accelerated again. So I spent the last 6 months having a look at how it is updated in the last year, and it's blown the competitors away as far as like competitors in time. So if we go back a year, it is light years from what it is now to what it was then. It can now get to a point where it is performing better on case study style advice than most consultants. Now, is it doing it straight out of the box? No, it's not. And so people test it out of the box. They go, all right, well, here's my fresh window. Let me type in a question and see what it responds with. And it's pretty average. But what I've seen as the difference is that if you take the time to mentor it, and if you put it through an agent, so it has a longer term memory that's focused on a specific area, if you put it through those paces, it gets better and improves very fast. And so I started mentoring an artificial intelligence called Sintra, which is just a bunch of different agents that share a brain or a long-term memory. And it is now outperforming me in my own thought process and tests. And so I'll get it to brainstorm with me and it's doing better. And, I put myself up a little bit on a pedestal, though I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm the consultant to consultants. And so it's interesting how it outperformed not only critical thinking, not only problem solving, but also copywriting. And copywriting is a big deal because it's how you're communicating and how you're communicating persuasively. And so it's already outperforming as long as you take the time to mentor it with the things that you're very good at. So mentorship is really the change that's going to accelerate. So you've got DeepSeek coming out. You've got this $500 billion investment on the other side from the US. It's going to push almost an AI arms race forward, which means it's going to accelerate the development of all these tools, which means that in a very short period of time, there is going to be, I'm going to call it a Googleization of artificial intelligence. There's going to be a Googleization of artificial intelligence, which means that we're going to have one primary candidate, which is going to have a monopoly of the queries. So the one that's probably free, very accessible, and has good, consistent results will be the one that everybody is using. And there'll be a handful of others around. There'll be ones that people are using because they're deep coders and they're doing artificial intelligence tools and they're creating more things from it. Right? That's an engine API sort of thing. But on the other side, you're going to be people who are just using it for general use. So it's going to come out. It's going to help people make decisions, right? It's going to help give them good, relevant advice. It's going to help them work through problem solving. And so that's a large part of what consultants and advisors do. So what is the playing field? What is the next step for consultants if they're looking to continue to stay in business? Well, there'll always be a game for trust in a human. And there'll be certain people who will always want to speak to a human to gain that trust. That's always going to be the case. The interesting thing will be when a generation turns around, and I know that's a lot further away, and most consultants probably aren't going to care about that because they'll be retired or passed away by that point. Let's be honest. But when that new generation comes around, the game's going to change completely. And so those people who want to be in business for probably longer than 5 years, it is really now to say, what is the future going to start to look like, and how do I prepare myself for it? And in the work that I've been doing with peers and my own work and my own development work in the background, and even talking with artificial intelligence about using it as a competitor, like how will you compete against me? How can we actually work together? Where's the crossover? Where's it going to work best? I'm I'm really looking at mentorship rather than consulting as really being the next horizon for consultants who want to stay relevant. And so, what do I mean by mentorship? What I mean is role modeling. What I mean is leadership. What I mean is showing people how I am doing things, showing people how you are doing things, and have them see a path that they can follow along. Yeah. So rather than the day of the consultant who's really a glorified contractor who comes into an organization to fix a problem, there will basically be artificial intelligence who can fix those problems and point to a direction. But there were two things that happen. One is anxiety around decision making. So, am I making the right decision? Am I making the best decision? That's going to be part of it. And the other is, how do I trust that this is going to happen because it's a forecast to the future? I would rather look to the past and find examples of how it's worked there. And so mentorship allows people to look to the past and they see a path that you've taken that has been successful, and they're more likely to trust your advice because of that sort of social proof. It's a different type of social proof than just looking at what the crowd's doing. Social proof is you as an individual have gone through a path that was successful. You made certain decisions and they were successful for you. And so we will assume that they're going to be likely to be successful for us. And so what does that mean for you as a mentor? Well, it means that really the knowledge industry is now gone. All right, we've gone through the feudal system, and there was farms working, and it was the work of a back. We've gone through the industrialized system where the school system started, and then people were skilled up through the school system, and so that they could get jobs, right? So that happened. Then we've got the knowledge economy and and how can we access knowledge to get better skills and get better jobs. Then we have things like Google and the Googleization of knowledge. Then we turn to wisdom. It's like, what is knowledge in context? And that has really been the game for the last 10 years of coaching, consulting, and advice. How do we give knowledge in context? Well, now artificial intelligence is going to be able to give that knowledge in context. So really now it is for you to decide, how are you going to be a role model that people will follow? So community is always going to be a big thing. People are going to feel like they're part of something is always going to be an element of driving an opportunity for you as a business person. So community is big, mentorship is big, leadership and role modeling big. And so how do you do that? How do you bring that through your business? Well, it's one of the things that we talk about in the Select Consulting System. For those who aren't aware, I run the Forge Business Program. Inside that program, we help consultants create a successful business that gives them pretty much unlimited choice. They get to select who they work with, where they work, anywhere in the world, when they work, specific hours that they work, and that is the Select Consulting System. Now, luckily, we actually set that up before artificial intelligence came along, and so it was already on the path of showing people how to become mentors and leaders within their space. So, how do they become the industry leader or the market leader? Okay, and so brand, personal brand, people being aware of you. The old days we would have said know, like, and trust is very much now around for, I think, for advisors and consultants. Know, respect, and trust. Yeah. So how do we create an authority brand? But that's the process of creating a select consultancy, the one where you get to select. And so the first process is, can you get clients from strangers to clients without having to go through referrals? Because the referral game has very much changed. And the more artificial intelligence comes to the fore, the more we talk about how AI is changing the parameters of how human interaction is happening. There's actually going to be less human interaction. So people are going to crave more human interaction. So referrals may go down, but communities will go up. And so, how can you either be a leader within a community, or how can you found a community and lead it? And then, what is your IP? What is the philosophy that you bring to the table that people can role model and move forward with? I think that is really the pathway that we're looking, and why DeepSeek is such a big deal right now. It has created an arm race for AI. It has created the thing that's going to push the artificial intelligence forward faster. It is the thing that's accelerated what I'm calling the Googleization of AI. There will be a winner who comes out on top, and then it's going to be regular use. Even right now, we're on the bleeding edge of artificial intelligence, and those people like myself who are using it on a daily basis are actually weird, because then I go and speak to professional service providers, whether they be accountants, lawyers, management consultants, and the like. They're barely using this technology. In fact, the majority of them have dismissed it, partly, I think, because of fear. I think that there is a fear that they're looking at losing their job, so they're actually closing their ears and they're like, la, 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 this is not happening to me. But the other side of it is that they've gone and checked it out of the box a year ago, and they've gone, well, if that's what it is, it's never going to actually beat what I can do as a professional consultant. But the reality is, technology accelerates. This generative AI accelerates faster. And now we've actually got two political parties who have a war on who is actually going to have the Google of AI, and they're racing to that point, which means that's going to accelerate it faster. Whether it's war, whether it's a thing like going to the moon, there is a competition that happens in this scenario. And Trump's put the put the what do you call it when you put a thing down? Anyway, the gauntlet. Yeah, he's dropped the gauntlet, but at the same time, literally the same time, China did exactly the same thing, and they actually one-upped the US. It was funny how it actually took a week for this news to really come out, but that's what it's all about. It's worth paying attention to because it's accelerating faster, which means that you as a consultant need to be thinking about how you're positioning yourself in the next probably less than 12 months to start taking advantage of leadership and role modeling within your space. And so I'm going to talk more about what that looks like. I'm going to be talking about how you actually create mythology. How do you create storytelling? How do you create the things that have people follow? How do you even create community? That's going to be a large part of what we talk about. And if you're interested to see that, go to the Your Consulting Business podcast, which is we've got so many episodes that are available now, and you can go check them out on my channel at youtube.com/Russell Pearson. All right. So Consulting Talk Live. If you'd like to ask us a question about what you'd like to know, go to consultingquestions.com. You can type in your question there. My name's Russell Pearson. If you're interested to know how you can get involved in the work that I do, you can reach out to me, or you can just start by just downloading some of the free resources we have at russellpearson.com. Again, the link is below in the show notes. Till next time, stay passionate, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.